Global oil prices have been on the rise for the last 2 weeks. Forsa and the Financial Services Union are calling for companies to allow staff to work from home more often to avoid high fuel costs for commuters. We're joined this morning by the head of the Financial Services Union, John Connell, who's going to be talking to us about this move. Thanks for taking the call, John.
Good morning, David.
Talk us through what you're asking employers to consider today.
I suppose what we're asking is that employers work with their staff and their unions and look and see how they can ameliorate the high cost of travel that staff now are experiencing with very sharp prices, and they seem to be going up every day in terms of the petrol pumps, together with the high cost of housing, which has been with us for quite some time. So what we're calling on is employers to review their current work practices and see can they be more flexible with employees in terms of the requirement to travel to the office, because we think, as I said, the sharp rise in the price of petrol and diesel has hit people in the pockets very, very severely. So we're calling on employers to do the responsible thing and look at this, examine it with their employees.
Okay, because I think in times gone by, if we were to find ourselves in this situation before the last half decade or so, the infrastructure societally and professionally wasn't really there to accommodate hybrid working as much as it is today. So we are in the fortunate position, I suppose, that many companies will already have a version of this in place. So there's a greater amount of flexibility there than there might otherwise have been in previous instances where a global conflict has led to pressure at the pumps.
Yeah, and there's a recent report from Morgan McKinley out last week where it showed that hybrid working is now a baseline expectation of workers, that if you want to attract talent, you have to have a good, robust hybrid working policy. A third of the staff, which is very, very significant, ranked it as their most important benefit. So that tells you just the importance that people place on it. And that's why we're making this call for employers to do the right thing. Many of them have adopted a really responsible approach to flexible working, and what we'd ask them to do is re-examine that now in the light of these inflationary measures. We also call on the government to intervene and support workers in terms of these high inflationary measures.
On the other side of the coin, though, many employers have voiced concerns and are keen to actually get their workers back in the office. So there's likely to be some opposition to the idea of accommodating people based on global events.
Yeah, but I think the evidence from good employers is that employers can be accommodated, most particularly customers can be accommodated, and therefore staff should be accommodated. Like we would have been, had a very fixed view years ago in terms of remote or hybrid working. Now the world has changed over COVID, and we now see it as a real part of ways of working. And all we're asking for is that in the current climate, that people use it to its max to support their employees. But there shouldn't be any diminution in service to customers or to employers. It is shown to work. There's over 1 million, according to the CSO, 1 million workers who work remotely or hybrid now. So it's a very viable option, and we're asking people to re-examine it in the light of the current inflationary crisis.
John, give us an insight into how the Financial Services Union and Forsa actually came up with this idea to actually go public with it and try campaign for employers to, I suppose, raise their awareness of the potential need for it. Was there an appetite amongst your members? How does that discourse start? And is it just a case that the price increases have been so extreme that it's immediately put a lot of people under pressure?
Yeah, I think first of all, people value the improved ways of working that hybrid and remote give them. But I think in our case, and I won't speak for Forsa, but in our case, we have a constant dialogue with our membership where we're talking to them, asking their views on various things, meeting them in their workplace and so forth. And so it came across loud and clear to us in terms of that this was a very real concern that, rapidly developed over the course of the past couple of weeks since the war in Iran was declared.
Can you remember anything like this in terms of the fuel prices, just from a personal perspective?
I suppose in terms of times gone past, there have been fuel crises, but I suppose this one, it's the uncertainty that it has created and the prolonged nature of it. Everybody expected that this was going to be a relatively quick situation, and all the indicators were first that the prices were going to be relatively stable. But now, because of the duration and the fact that now people are saying that they can't see an end, it has fed into the costs, which literally, when you walk by the petrol station, the costs have gone up from day to day. And so people are feeling that immediately. So even one day extra working from home would make a significant difference to a person's budget, given the high cost of fuel.
Yeah, the consequences of this conflict in the Middle East keep on rolling, and there's no question we're going to see more and more unexpected outcomes over the course of the next number of days and weeks. It's been good to talk, John. I appreciate you taking the call.
Not at all. Good to talk to you. Thanks, David.
Head of Financial Services Union is John O'Connell there, talking about allowing workers to actually work from home a lot more over the course of the next number of weeks until maybe fuel prices settle down. On paper, it seems to make sense. I'd be curious to hear from anyone who employs people and actually is a decision maker in regards to that. Would you be happy to let them off or let them be at work at home for a couple of days? And as John underlined there, the idea is that the service being offered by the company isn't undermined, and if that's the case, why would you not ultimately?